Okay, validity and reliability of diagnosis. So, quick review where we've been. So, we'll look at the cognition, explanations, treatments, and the role of culture, and now we're looking at issues in diagnosis. So, what we're looking at today is clinical bias and how that might influence the validity of diagnosis. You can do a quick game of charades as a bit of a recap some key terms. Now, I do like showing this clip. Really really tough film to watch, but I just watched a little bit. I think that the duration that I show is at the beginning, and this is in the unit plan. I like to show this. This is from the 1980s, and you can see kids with disorders. And I like to show this because this is the why. The why are we studying the etiologies of psychological disorders? Why do we study why people get PTSD, depression, autism, any sort of disorder that's going to affect the quality of someone's life? Why do we study the origin of this? And it's so we can help alleviate that. We can find the treatment. We can help make the world a better place for a utopian view. And I think this really hits home, and it can be very emotional. At 4 minutes into the film, you listen to the story of a boy, and I'm not sure if he had muscular dystrophy, might have had cognitive difficulties, and he's 16 and he can articulate his thoughts and feelings quite well, but he just said his parents dropped him off. He turned 16, and he's never heard from them since. And he's just they went off to Vegas or to live. Just said, "You take care of him now. We're finished." And yeah, and the parents dropped him off, and he said, "Now I've got to make my own life. I've just got to stop thinking that they're going to come back for me, and yeah, I just got to carry on." It's tough. It's tough. So I do. That one comes with a warning, but this is why we teach this stuff. Okay. Here's another activity about the validity and reliability of disorders. So half and half again, but here we're going to have a range of disorders. So it's not just PTSD. What I would tell people for this one, we're looking at clinical bias. So I tell the students that in the beginning that they're looking for a diagnosis, or I don't actually say, they just say, make a diagnosis, and they're trying to see if they can get it right, if they can get the right answer. And then after a little while, we swap. And then, so those who are patients become therapists and vice versa. And now now I tell them, okay, they might not have a disorder. And what we look here for is what rate of a diagnosis, what happens to the rates of diagnosis? Do suddenly, and what tends to happen usually is in the second round, when they realize, oh, they may not have a disorder, that percentage rate of diagnosis drops significantly. And I feel like this helps in convey the concept of clinical bias. If someone comes into your office and you feel like, okay, they're coming to see me so they have a disorder, then you might be looking for things, and your confirmation bias plays a role. But if you suddenly realize that, oh, hey, they might not have a disorder, then you may not be inclined to match their symptoms with one of the disorders. So this is another good activity that works pretty well. Okay, and then, so like this activity, it gets the idea across, but then they have to actually have some nitty-gritty details, and so then this is where I don't mind getting them to do some reading in the lesson, and then they answer the question in the workbook. 5 words, exit ticket, nice short thing. What would be 5 words that they would use to summarize the abnormal psychology so far? So there's a little bit of filtering process where they just think, okay, try and get their head around looking at the big picture, the big concepts that bind things together. And you might come back to this as well. I think this is the wrong one. Treatment. I'll replace this. This should be the diagnosis of disorders image. And then again, looking at how this stuff applies to multiple topics. And then next lesson is the last lesson on confirmation bias, and we'll look at Rosenhan's research.